She walked in, glowing like it was her best day ever, with this tall, bearded, overly confident guy at her side. Then she says, "I have some news for you." Let's just say what happened next turned everything upside down. My name's Mike. I'm 27. Let's just say things with my wife Ashley have been tense lately. We used to be that couple everyone envied, laughing at dumb inside jokes, sharing every little detail of our lives. But in the past few months, not so much. It was like we were living on two different planets. So when Ashley said she had news for me that evening, I wasn't exactly expecting it to be good. Picture this. I'm sitting on the couch, scrolling mindlessly through my phone, just trying to unwind after a long day. Suddenly, there's a knock at the door. I don't think much of it at first. Maybe she forgot her keys or something. But when I open the door, there she is, and she's not alone. Standing next to her is this guy. He's tall, got a beard, and looks like he walked straight out of some fancy boutique. Seriously, everything about him screamed, "I'm the best thing that's ever happened to anyone." Ashley waltzes in, glowing like a Christmas tree, and I'm just standing there, trying to figure out what on earth is going on. She doesn't even wait for me to ask questions. She turns to me with a smile and says, "Mike, I have some big news." "Yeah, great, just what I needed." Then she drops it. "Mike, I'm pregnant." She's staring at me, waiting for some kind of reaction, like I'm supposed to jump for joy or something. Normally, I might have actually been excited. I mean, we talked about having kids one day, but right then, I couldn't even process it. Not with this guy, her friend, standing right there smirking at me like he knew something I didn't. Before I could even wrap my head around it, Ashley adds, "And there's something else I need to tell you." So there I am, still trying to wrap my head around the "I'm pregnant" bomb Ashley just dropped on me when she decides it's time for the next surprise. She takes a breath, glances over at the guy next to her, and finally says, "Mike, this is Brendan. He's the father." The second those words leave her mouth, it feels like the room just shrinks. Breathing suddenly feels like a luxury I don't have. Everything around me blurs, like I'm trapped in some surreal nightmare that I can't wake up from. And Brendan? Oh, he's just standing there, clearly loving every second of this little scene. He's smirking wider now, taking a step forward like he wants to make sure I really get it, that I really see him standing there, right where he thinks he belongs. Ashley, looking me dead in the eyes, starts explaining, "Mike, it was a mistake, something that just happened. But we've drifted apart. We're not the same people we used to be." She's talking like we're discussing a broken toaster, something you just throw out when it stops working. "Our marriage," she says with this weird, almost apologetic smile, "has become a burden for me." And Brendan? He's nodding along, like he's the voice of reason in this whole mess, like every word out of her mouth is some sort of profound truth. I'm standing there, trying to understand how any of this could actually be happening. Part of me feels like I'm watching a movie about someone else's life, but no, this is my life they're shredding to pieces right in front of me. It's almost like they rehearsed this, like they planned out exactly how to take my world apart, piece by piece. And here I am, frozen, as they lay out every last detail, one blow after another. After their big announcement, something inside me just clicked. I'd always been the calm, trusting type, probably a little too forgiving if I'm being honest. But this was on a whole new level. I wasn't about to sit back and let them play me like that. No way. As they kept talking, practically patting themselves on the back for their honesty, I was already planning my next move. They thought they'd won, but they were in for a surprise. The next morning, first thing, I called up a lawyer. If Ashley thought she could start a new life with her father of the year over there without any consequences, she was in for a rude awakening. I spent the whole day gathering every document I could find. Bank statements, contracts, anything that could give me a leg up in this situation. Turns out, marriage is a lot more complicated on paper, and I was about to use every detail to my advantage. As I dug through our files, I even found a few legal loopholes that might work in my favor. Yeah, I was a man on a mission, and this was just the first step. The next day, Ashley conveniently had errands to run, which I knew by now was just her code for meeting up with Brendan. She thought she was being sneaky, but I'd caught on. What she didn't know was that I had my own agenda. If she was going to play dirty, then so was I. I hired a private investigator, someone who'd do more than just snap a couple of photos. I wanted evidence, solid proof of her cheating and every shady move she'd made with our joint finances. While the investigator was out doing his thing, I got to work at home. Slowly but surely, I started moving my stuff, anything valuable or important to me, out of the house and into a safe spot. Ashley wasn't going to take anything from me, not this time. I wanted to be fully prepared for the moment I'd confront her with everything, evidence in hand, with all my assets secure. As each piece fell into place, I could feel myself getting closer to that moment. A few days later, I finally had enough dirt to make things real interesting. Turns out, Brendan wasn't exactly the charming catch he made himself out to be. His bank account was practically empty, and he was drowning in debt. And here's the kicker. Ashley had been funneling our joint money to help him hide his finances from creditors. She'd even been selling off some of my prized possessions, transferring the cash straight to his accounts. The nerve of it. That night, when Ashley walked through the door, I was ready. I didn't waste any time. I laid everything out in front of her, photos, records, even snippets of her little love notes to Brendan. Every piece of evidence, right there for her to see. I was ready for a reaction, shock, regret, maybe even a hint of guilt. But Ashley, she just looked at me, gave a little smirk, and shrugged. Then she said, "I don't care. I've already made my choice." Like I was supposed to just accept it and move on. In that moment, I realized this was only the beginning. If she wanted a game, I was more than ready to play. Ashley didn't just own up to everything. Oh no, she doubled down. She actually had the nerve to threaten me, saying that if I tried to mess with her plans, she'd make my life a nightmare. And judging by that smug look on her face, she'd clearly been cooking up something nasty. Right then, my phone buzzed. It was the detective. And what he told me? Pure gold. Turns out, Mr. Perfect, Brendan, wasn't just broke. He had a whole other girlfriend on the side. Yep, he was using Ashley to dig himself out of debt, but he had zero intentions of sticking around. The irony was so thick, I almost laughed right there. But instead, I kept a straight face and didn't breathe a word to Ashley. Now I knew her weak spot, and I figured it was only a matter of time before things started crumbling around her. Still, I couldn't resist nudging things along, just enough to see how spectacularly this would all blow up in her face. I was ready to make my final move. Quietly, I recorded our last argument where Ashley pretty much confessed to everything, every shady financial move, every little betrayal. With that recording in hand, I sent it straight to her company's HR. Didn't take long for the bomb to go off. A few hours later, I got the news. Ashley had been fired. And that's when things got interesting. By evening, her lawyer calls me up trying to negotiate some amicable divorce settlement, talking about how we could avoid a messy court battle. I played along, nodding and agreeing to keep things civil, but I knew this was all just a stalling tactic. I was waiting for the right moment to pull the rug out from under her. Meanwhile, the detective called with an update that couldn't have been more perfect. Apparently, Brendan's other girlfriend stumbled upon his texts to Ashley, where he straight up admitted he was using her for cash. It was the final piece of the puzzle I'd been waiting for. I had the upper hand, and all I had to do was bide my time, waiting for the exact moment to let it all unravel. The moment of truth finally arrived. We met up for the final divorce discussion, and of course, Brendan showed up with Ashley, practically glued to her side, oozing confidence. He was all smug smiles, holding her close, like he'd won some sort of prize. But I had a finale planned that he'd never see coming. With a calm smile, I pulled out the copies of their messages, the ones where Brendan openly admitted he was just using Ashley to get out of debt. I handed them right to her, saying, "Guess it's time you knew what kind of catch he really is." For the first time, I saw Brendan's confidence crack. He looked like he'd swallowed a lemon, shifting uncomfortably as Ashley read through the messages, her face draining of color with every line. You could almost see the illusion shattering in her eyes. Ashley tried to throw some accusations my way, desperate to deflect, but it was no use. She had no job, no real support, and now no illusions about her perfect boyfriend. I gave them one last look, nodded, and walked out of there, feeling like I'd just set things right. They could clean up the mess they'd made, and I was finally free.